They lived by their laws, shaped their society around their myths, and you know that the ancient Egyptians worshipped a pantheon of gods so powerful that their influence shaped the very foundation of one of history's greatest civilizations? From the sun's fiery rays to the silent passage of time, the 12 gods of ancient Egypt held dominion over all aspects of life and death. Today, we embark on a journey to unravel the mysteries and stories behind these deities that guided the hearts and minds of the ancient Egyptians. In the heart of the ancient Nile Valley, a civilization arose that would stand the test of time. Central to their beliefs was a pantheon of gods and goddesses, each embodying different aspects of existence. The ancient Egyptians didn't just worship these gods. They lived by their laws, shaped their society around their myths, and looked to them for guidance in both life and death. Today, we delve into the stories of these 12 gods, exploring their origins, powers, and the roles they played in the cosmic drama that governed the universe. Our journey begins with the primordial gods, those who existed before time itself. The first is Nun, the god of the primordial waters. In the beginning, there was nothing but chaos, an endless sea known as Nun. From these emerged Adam, the self-created god, who stood upon the primeval mound, symbolizing the first land. From Adam's own essence came the first divine pair, Shu, the god of air, and Tefnut, the goddess of moisture. This trinity, Nun, Adam, Shu, and Tefnut, represents the creation of order from chaos, the first breath of life, and the essential elements that sustain the world. As the story unfolds, Shu and Tefnut give birth to two more powerful deities, Geb, the god of the earth, and Nut, the goddess of the sky. Geb and Nut's love was so intense that they were locked in an eternal embrace, preventing the creation of life. Adam, seeing the need for balance, commanded Shu to separate them. With great strength, Shu lifted Nut high into the heavens, creating the sky, while Geb remained below as the earth. This act not only created the physical world, but also set the stage for the ongoing cycle of life and death. Nut became the arch of the sky, her body adorned with stars, while Geb lay beneath, the earth from which all life springs. At the heart of Egyptian mythology stands Ra, the sun god, and the most important of all deities. Ra is the creator of life, the one who sails across the sky in his solar bark, bringing light to the world each day. As the ruler of all gods, Ra's journey through the sky represents the daily cycle of life and death. During the day, he travels from east to west, providing warmth and light. But as night falls, Ra descends into the underworld, where he must confront the forces of chaos before rising again at dawn. The sun's daily journey symbolizes the eternal struggle between order and chaos, light and darkness, life and death. Among the most compelling stories in Egyptian mythology is the tale of Osiris, the god of the afterlife. Osiris was the beloved king of Egypt, ruling with his queen, Isis. But his brother Set, driven by envy, plotted his downfall. In a dramatic betrayal, Set killed Osiris, dismembering his body and scattering it across the land. Devastated, Isis embarked on a quest to find and reassemble her husband's body. With the help of her sister Nephthys and the wisdom of Thoth, the god of knowledge, Isis succeeded in restoring Osiris, who then became the lord of the underworld. Osiris's death and resurrection symbolize the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, a theme central to Egyptian belief. His son, Horus, avenged his father's death, battling Set and restoring order to the kingdom. Horus, the falcon-headed god, became the symbol of kingship and protection, embodying the divine power of the pharaohs. Alongside these major deities were others who played crucial roles in maintaining balance and order in the universe. Anubis, the jackal-headed god, was the protector of the dead and the guide of souls in the afterlife. He oversaw the embalming process and ensured that the dead were properly prepared for their journey to the underworld. Batet, the lioness-headed goddess, was a protector of home and family, embodying both the nurturing and fierce aspects of motherhood. Thoth, the ibis-headed god, was the divine scribe, the keeper of knowledge, and the mediator between gods and humans. His wisdom and understanding of the universe made him a key figure in maintaining the cosmic order. Egyptian mythology also tells of the constant battle between the forces of chaos and order. Set, the god of chaos, desert, and storms, represents the disruptive forces that threaten to overthrow the balance of the universe. His eternal conflict with Horus, the god of kingship and protection, is a reminder of the delicate balance that must be maintained. On the other side stands Ma'at, the goddess of truth, justice, and harmony. Ma'at's principles govern the actions of both gods and humans, ensuring that order prevails over chaos. Her feather is used in the weighing of the heart ceremony, determining the fate of souls in the afterlife. As we weave through the intricate stories of these 12 gods, a picture emerges of a complex and interconnected belief system. Each god and goddess holds a unique role, yet they all work together to maintain the delicate balance that governs the universe. The ancient Egyptians saw their gods not just as distant, powerful beings, but as integral parts of their daily lives. From the rising of the sun to the flooding of the Nile, from the birth of a child to the passing of a loved one, the gods were always present, guiding and protecting the people of Egypt. The legacy of these 12 gods lives on, not just in the stories and monuments they left behind, but in the very fabric of Egyptian culture. Their myths continue to inspire and fascinate, offering insights into a civilization that, despite the passage of millennia, remains one of the most intriguing and influential in human history. The gods of ancient Egypt represent the eternal quest for understanding the mysteries of life, death, and the universe, a quest that continues to captivate us to this day. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of ancient Egyptian mythology. If you enjoyed this exploration, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the myths and legends that shaped our world. What other ancient civilizations would you like us to explore next? Let us know in the comments below. Join me as I dive deep into the ancient Egyptian afterlife beliefs and try to understand the weighing of the heart ceremony like never before. Did you know that ancient Egyptians believed in a journey through the underworld that would determine their eternal fate? This journey was filled with dangers, but at the heart of it all was the pivotal moment when the deceased's heart was weighed against the feather of Ma'at, the goddess of truth and justice. What did this mean for the soul's future, and how did it shape Egyptian culture? In this video, you'll explore the fascinating beliefs surrounding the afterlife in ancient Egypt, focusing specifically on the duat and the weighing of the heart ceremony. The Egyptians had a complex view of the afterlife, one that intricately connected their spiritual beliefs with everyday life. They believed that the way one lived their life on earth would directly influence their journey through the duat, a mystical realm of the dead. At the center of these beliefs was a ceremony that would either grant the deceased eternal life or condemn them to non-existence: the weighing of the heart. The challenge for ancient Egyptians didn't end with death. It was just beginning. The journey through the afterlife was filled with trials, and the fate of every soul rested on how well they had lived in accordance with Ma'at, the principle of truth, balance, and order. To the Egyptians, the afterlife was not a place you simply arrived at. It had to be earned. They believed that the soul would face several obstacles, including demonic creatures, perilous waters, and complex mazes within the duat. Each step of the journey required not just spiritual strength, but a pure heart. This is where their actions in life became crucial. Every lie, every misdeed could weigh their heart down when it was finally placed on the scales in front of the gods. The Egyptians understood life as a preparation for death. Tombs were meticulously constructed to house the body and provide for the Ka and Ba, aspects of the soul that would persist beyond death. They filled these tombs with objects and food to sustain the deceased in the afterlife. But no matter how well the tomb was stocked or how carefully the body was mummified, the true test lay ahead. Let's dive deeper into the duat, the underworld that every Egyptian soul had to traverse. This mystical realm was not just a simple path to the afterlife. It was a landscape of challenges. Here, gods, spirits, and even terrifying creatures like serpents and demons awaited the souls of the deceased. The Egyptians believed that this journey was treacherous, filled with pitfalls and hazards that could end one's soul if they weren't prepared. To protect themselves, the deceased would carry spells from the Book of the Dead, a collection of magical texts intended to guide and protect them. At the heart of this journey, however, was the weighing of the heart ceremony. This was the moment of ultimate judgment, where the heart of the deceased was weighed on the scales of justice by the god Anubis, who presided over the ceremony. The Egyptians believed that the heart contained the sum of a person's deeds, memories, and character. It was weighed against the feather of Maat, the goddess of truth and balance. If the heart was lighter or balanced with the feather, the individual would be granted passage into the afterlife, to live forever in peace. But if the heart was heavier, weighed down by sin and dishonesty, a terrifying fate awaited them. The weighing of the heart was a dramatic moment. Anubis, with the scales in hand, would place the deceased's heart on one side and the feather of Maat on the other. It's important to understand that in Egyptian culture, the heart was seen as the seat of the soul and morality. Unlike other ancient civilizations that considered the brain as central, the Egyptians believed the heart contained a person's thoughts, emotions, and experiences. Standing nearby was the goddess Ammit, a fearsome creature with the head of a crocodile, the body of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus. If the heart weighed heavier than the feather, it was immediately devoured by Ammit. This meant the soul was condemned to eternal destruction, essentially erased from existence, an idea more frightening than hell for the Egyptians, as they deeply believed in the continuation of life after death. For those whose hearts were light and balanced, the rewards were eternal. The soul would be led by the god Horus to Osiris, the ruler of the underworld, to live a peaceful afterlife in the field of reeds, an idealized version of life on earth. The Egyptians envisioned this realm as a place of abundance and tranquility, free from suffering. The ancient Egyptian beliefs about the afterlife were complex and profound. The weighing of the heart ceremony was a crucial moment, determining whether a soul would be granted eternal life or obliterated by Ammit. This ceremony, with its emphasis on moral integrity, reflected the values of Egyptian society and reinforced the idea that life and afterlife were inextricably linked. To them, death was not an end, but a passage to something greater, provided one lived in accordance with Maat. What are your thoughts on the weighing of the heart ceremony? Could you imagine living a life where every action you take is thought of as being weighed after death? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this dive into Egyptian mythology, don't forget to check out my other videos on this fascinating civilization. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more intriguing stories from the ancient world. Ancient Egypt, a land of wonder, mystery, and awe, was deeply rooted in rituals that connected them to their gods, the afterlife, and the cosmic order. These rituals were not just religious practices, but the lifeblood of their society. They ensured the balance of the universe, known as Maat, which they believed sustained both the living and the dead. Today, we uncover some of the most unbelievable ancient rituals of this mysterious civilization. One of the most iconic of these rituals was the opening of the mouth ceremony, a powerful funerary rite. It was believed that when someone passed from this world, they required the ability to eat, speak, and breathe in the afterlife. Through symbolic gestures, the priest, often a family member, would open the mouth of the deceased by touching it with a ceremonial tool. This allowed the soul to live on, ensuring a comfortable and eternal existence beyond the grave. But the afterlife wasn't guaranteed without the weighing of the heart ritual, perhaps one of the most crucial judgments in Egyptian belief. After death, the heart, which Egyptians believed held all of one's thoughts and deeds, was weighed against the feather of Maat, the goddess of truth. If the heart was heavy with sin, the soul would be devoured by the fearsome demon Ammit, and that person would cease to exist. However, a light heart meant purity, granting the deceased passage into the eternal fields of paradise. Rituals weren't reserved just for the afterlife, though. The ancient Egyptians practiced Heka, magic, in their daily lives. Whether it was for protection, healing, or even influencing events, magic played a central role. Through chants, spells, and offerings, they believed they could manipulate the natural and supernatural worlds to their benefit. One particularly grand event was the Sed Festival, held after a pharaoh had ruled for 30 years. This ritual was a combination of physical tests and sacred ceremonies that re-energized the king, symbolizing his continued strength and divine right to rule. The festival included a reenactment of his coronation and even a ceremonial race, demonstrating his vitality and connection to the gods. The beautiful Feast of the Valley was another event where the Egyptians connected with both their gods and their deceased ancestors. The people would sail from the bustling city of Thebes to the necropolis in the west, where they made offerings of food, drink, and prayers at the tombs of their loved ones. This ritual strengthened the bond between the living and the dead, ensuring that the deceased were remembered and cared for in the afterlife. Temples, too, were the center of daily temple rituals, conducted by priests to maintain the order of the universe. Every day, offerings of food, incense, and prayers were given to the gods, asking for their favor, protection, and guidance. These rituals weren't just for the gods. They maintained Egypt's prosperity and kept the forces of chaos at bay. Perhaps one of the most fascinating rituals was the Festival of Opet, a grand procession celebrating the renewal of the pharaoh's divine right to rule. The statue of Ammonius, the chief god of Thebes, would be carried from the Karnak temple to the Luxor temple, symbolizing the union between the king and the divine. The streets were filled with music, dancing, and offerings in what was one of the most joyous celebrations in ancient Egypt. And for those seeking a bountiful harvest, there was the Feast of Min, dedicated to the god of fertility and reproduction. The pharaoh or priest would perform symbolic rituals, such as plowing the earth, ensuring that Egypt would be blessed with abundant crops and renewed life. The meticulous process of mummification itself was an elaborate ritual that prepared the body for the journey to the afterlife. Priests would perform sacred rites to cleanse, embalm, and wrap the body in fine linen, placing protective amulets between the layers to safeguard the soul. Mummification was not just about preserving the body. It was a magical process that ensured the deceased could navigate the afterlife's perils. These rituals, whether daily, funerary, or festival, reflect the Egyptians' deep belief in maintaining harmony with their gods and preparing for a seamless transition into the afterlife. From the grand New Year festival of Weepa, which celebrated the Nile's inundation and the renewal of the land, to the intimate funerary banquets, where families dined with their dead, Egypt's culture was steeped in symbolism and reverence for the divine. To this day, these ancient rituals continue to fascinate and mystify us, offering a glimpse into the extraordinary spiritual world of one of history's greatest civilizations. The grandeur and magic of Egypt live on, not only in its monuments, but in its rituals that have left an indelible mark on the annals of history. If you've enjoyed this dive into ancient Egypt's mysterious rituals, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below with your thoughts on which ritual fascinated you the most. Let's keep the mystery alive. Join me as I dive into the mysteries of ancient Egyptian magic and try to unlock its most powerful spells and sorcery. From the mystical rites that guided the journey to the afterlife to the incantations that summoned the protection of powerful deities, ancient Egyptian magic holds secrets that continue to fascinate and intrigue us today. In this video, you'll discover the fascinating realm of ancient Egyptian magic, including the spells, sorcery, and mysticism that shaped their beliefs and practices. Despite its significance, much of Egyptian magic remains a mystery to modern audiences. Many of us are familiar with the iconic pyramids, mummies, and hieroglyphics, but the underlying magical practices that govern their daily lives are often overlooked. To truly understand ancient Egyptian culture, we need to delve deeper into their mystical worldview. Egyptian magic was a complex system that wove together mythology, astrology, and spiritual practices to create a rich tapestry of rituals and spells. By exploring this mystical realm, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the ingenuity and creativity of the ancient Egyptians. But how can we unlock these secrets and understand their true essence? One way is to examine the various forms of magical texts, such as the pyramid texts, coffin texts, and the Book of the Dead. These texts weren't just religious manuscripts. They were powerful magical tools. For instance, the pyramid texts contain some of the oldest known religious spells, which were etched into the walls of royal tombs to ensure the pharaoh's protection in the afterlife. Spells from the pyramid texts were meant to guide the soul through the underworld, warding off evil forces and ensuring a peaceful transition into eternity. Another key source of ancient Egyptian magic is the Book of the Dead, a collection of spells and prayers written on papyrus and buried with the deceased to help them navigate the afterlife. Within this book, you'll find spells for protection, guidance, and empowerment, such as the famous weighing of the heart spell, where the deceased's heart is weighed against the feather of truth to determine their fate in the afterlife. If the heart was lighter than the feather, the soul could enter paradise. If heavier, it would be devoured by the monstrous goddess Ammit. Let's not forget the priests and priestesses who played a vital role in performing these magical rituals. Serving as intermediaries between the human and divine realms, these individuals were skilled in the arts of magic and astrology. They used specialized tools like wands, amulets, and statues to channel divine power. The hieroglyphic carvings on these tools were believed to hold magical power, granting the wearer or the person they were used on protection, health, and prosperity. At the heart of Egyptian magic lay a deep reverence for the gods and goddesses, who were believed to possess supernatural powers. Egyptian magic wasn't just about casting spells. It was about invoking the favor of the gods to manipulate the forces of nature and reality itself. The Egyptians developed an elaborate pantheon of deities, each with their own distinct personality and sphere of influence. For instance, Isis, one of the most beloved and powerful goddesses, was associated with magic, healing, and protection. She was often invoked in spells meant to safeguard loved ones or restore health. Isis herself was a master of spells, once using magic to learn the secret name of the sun god Are, which gave her immense power. Another example is Anubis, the god of mummification and the afterlife, who was often called upon in funerary rites to guide the souls of the dead. His presence was key to ensuring a smooth passage into the afterlife, with spells and prayers invoking his guidance to protect the deceased from the dangers of the underworld. Rituals, too, were central to Egyptian magic. These rituals often involved a combination of spoken spells, symbolic gestures, and offerings to the gods. For example, during the festival of Weepa Trempet, the Egyptian New Year, priests performed elaborate rituals to renew the powers of the pharaoh and ensure prosperity for the kingdom. Ritual tools like ceremonial masks, sistrums, musical instruments used in religious ceremonies, and incense burners were used to call forth the presence of deities and spirits, creating a sacred space for the magical rites to unfold. One particularly powerful and well-known magical ritual was the opening the mouth ceremony, which was performed during the mummification process. This ritual was believed to restore the senses of the dead so they could eat, drink, and speak in the afterlife. The process involved intricate steps, including the use of sacred tools like the adze, a small instrument shaped like a crescent, to symbolically open the mouth and eyes of the deceased. The opening the mouth ritual was more than just a spiritual rite. It was a profound expression of the Egyptians' belief in the continuity of life after death. They understood that death was not the end, but merely a transition to a different existence, and the magic they performed was essential to ensure this transition went smoothly. It also demonstrated their belief in the interconnectedness of the physical and spiritual worlds. Every action taken in this world had ripples in the afterlife. Another fascinating aspect of Egyptian magic is the use of amulets. The ankh, for example, symbolized life and was often placed on mummies to ensure a continuation of life in the afterlife. Amulets of scarab beetles were also used for protection, as they were believed to hold transformative powers. Just as the beetle could transform waste into nourishment, these amulets were thought to bring transformation and regeneration to the soul. The Egyptians also had spells for everyday needs, such as protection against illness, good harvests, or success in personal ventures. One such example is the Sipi of Horus, a type of protective charm that depicted the child god Horus standing on crocodiles while holding dangerous animals. It was meant to protect against bites from venomous creatures and was often placed in homes or temples as a form of spiritual protection. Our journey into the mysteries of ancient Egyptian magic has revealed a complex, multifaceted system that wove together mythology, astrology, and spiritual practices. Egyptian magic wasn't just about casting spells. It was an entire worldview that connected the physical and spiritual worlds. From the divine power of gods like Isis and Anubis to the intricate spells contained in texts like the Book of the Dead, ancient Egyptian magic was central to how they understood life, death, and the cosmos. By exploring the magical texts, rituals, and deities of ancient Egypt, we can gain a deeper appreciation for their ingenuity, creativity, and profound reverence for the mysteries of life and death. Even today, their magical practices continue to intrigue enthusiasts and scholars alike, leaving us to wonder what other secrets might still be hidden in the sands of time. If you enjoyed this exploration of ancient magic, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out my other videos on mystical traditions from around the world. Ancient Egypt, a land of wonder, mystery, and awe, was deeply rooted in rituals that connected them to their gods, the afterlife, and the cosmic order. These rituals were not just religious practices, but the lifeblood of their society. They ensured the balance of the universe, known as Ma'at, which they believed sustained both the living and the dead. Today, we uncover some of the most unbelievable ancient rituals of this mysterious civilization. One of the most iconic of these rituals was the opening of the mouth ceremony, a powerful funerary rite. It was believed that when someone passed from this world, they required the ability to eat, speak, and breathe in the afterlife. Through symbolic gestures, the priest, often a family member, would open the mouth of the deceased by touching it with a ceremonial tool. This allowed the soul to live on, ensuring a comfortable and eternal existence beyond the grave. But the afterlife wasn't guaranteed without the weighing of the heart ritual, perhaps one of the most crucial judgments in Egyptian belief. After death, the heart, which Egyptians believed held all of one's thoughts and deeds, was weighed against the feather of Ma'at, the goddess of truth. If the heart was heavy with sin, the soul would be devoured by the fearsome demon Ammit, and that person would cease to exist. However, a light heart meant purity, granting the deceased passage into the eternal fields of paradise. Rituals weren't reserved just for the afterlife, though. The ancient Egyptians practiced Heka, magic, in their daily lives. Whether it was for protection, healing, or even influencing events, magic played a central role. Through chants, spells, and offerings, they believed they could manipulate the natural and supernatural worlds to their benefit. One particularly grand event was the Sed Festival, held after a pharaoh had ruled for 30 years. This ritual was a combination of physical tests and sacred ceremonies that re-energized the king, symbolizing his continued strength and divine right to rule. The festival included a reenactment of his coronation and even a ceremonial race, demonstrating his vitality and connection to the gods. The beautiful Feast of the Valley was another event where the Egyptians connected with both their gods and their deceased ancestors. The people would sail from the bustling city of Thebes to the necropolis in the west, where they made offerings of food, drink, and prayers at the tombs of their loved ones. This ritual strengthened the bond between the living and the dead, ensuring that the deceased were remembered and cared for in the afterlife. Temples, too, were the center of daily temple rituals, conducted by priests to maintain the order of the universe. Every day, offerings of food, incense, and prayers were given to the gods, asking for their favor, protection, and guidance. These rituals weren't just for the gods. They maintained Egypt's prosperity and kept the forces of chaos at bay. Perhaps one of the most fascinating rituals was the Festival of Opet, a grand procession celebrating the renewal of the pharaoh's divine right to rule. The statue of Ammonius, the chief god of Thebes, would be carried from the Karnak temple to the Luxor temple, symbolizing the union between the king and the divine. The streets were filled with music, dancing, and offerings in what was one of the most joyous celebrations in ancient Egypt. And for those seeking a bountiful harvest, there was the Feast of Min, dedicated to the god of fertility and reproduction. The pharaoh or priest would perform symbolic rituals, such as plowing the earth, ensuring that Egypt would be blessed with abundant crops and renewed life. The meticulous process of mummification itself was an elaborate ritual that prepared the body for the journey to the afterlife. Priests would perform sacred rites to cleanse, embalm, and wrap the body in fine linen, placing protective amulets between the layers to safeguard the soul. Mummification was not just about preserving the body. It was a magical process that ensured the deceased could navigate the afterlife's perils. These rituals, whether daily, funerary, or festival, reflect the Egyptians' deep belief in maintaining harmony with their gods and preparing for a seamless transition into the afterlife. From the grand New Year festival of Weepa, which celebrated the Nile's inundation and the renewal of the land, to the intimate funerary banquets, where families dined with their dead, Egypt's culture was steeped in symbolism and reverence for the divine. To this day, these ancient rituals continue to fascinate and mystify us, offering a glimpse into the extraordinary spiritual world of one of history's greatest civilizations. The grandeur and magic of Egypt live on, not only in its monuments, but in its rituals that have left an indelible mark on the annals of history. If you've enjoyed this dive into ancient Egypt's mysterious rituals, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below with your thoughts on which ritual fascinated you the most. Let's keep the mystery alive. Join me as I dive into the mysteries of ancient Egyptian magic and try to unlock its most powerful spells and sorcery. From the mystical rites that guided the journey to the afterlife to the incantations that summoned the protection of powerful deities, ancient Egyptian magic holds secrets that continue to fascinate and intrigue us today. In this video, you'll discover the fascinating realm of ancient Egyptian magic, including the spells, sorcery, and mysticism that shaped their beliefs and practices. Despite its significance, much of Egyptian magic remains a mystery to modern audiences. Many of us are familiar with the iconic pyramids, mummies, and hieroglyphics, but the underlying magical practices that govern their daily lives are often overlooked. To truly understand ancient Egyptian culture, we need to delve deeper into their mystical worldview. Egyptian magic was a complex system that wove together mythology, astrology, and spiritual practices to create a rich tapestry of rituals and spells. By exploring this mystical realm, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the ingenuity and creativity of the ancient Egyptians. But how can we unlock these secrets and understand their true essence? One way is to examine the various forms of magical texts, such as the pyramid texts, coffin texts, and the Book of the Dead. These texts weren't just religious manuscripts. They were powerful magical tools. For instance, the pyramid texts contain some of the oldest known religious spells, which were etched into the walls of royal tombs to ensure the pharaoh's protection in the afterlife. Spells from the pyramid texts were meant to guide the soul through the underworld, warding off evil forces and ensuring a peaceful transition into eternity. Another key source of ancient Egyptian magic is the Book of the Dead, a collection of spells and prayers written on papyrus and buried with the deceased to help them navigate the afterlife. Within this book, you'll find spells for protection, guidance, and empowerment, such as the famous weighing of the heart spell, where the deceased's heart is weighed against the feather of truth to determine their fate in the afterlife. If the heart was lighter than the feather, the soul could enter paradise. If heavier, it would be devoured by the monstrous goddess Ammit. Let's not forget the priests and priestesses who played a vital role in performing these magical rituals. Serving as intermediaries between the human and divine realms, these individuals were skilled in the arts of magic and astrology. They used specialized tools like wands, amulets, and statues to channel divine power. The hieroglyphic carvings on these tools were believed to hold magical power, granting the wearer or the person they were used on protection, health, and prosperity. At the heart of Egyptian magic lay a deep reverence for the gods and goddesses, who were believed to possess supernatural powers. Egyptian magic wasn't just about casting spells. It was about invoking the favor of the gods to manipulate the forces of nature and reality itself. The Egyptians developed an elaborate pantheon of deities, each with their own distinct personality and sphere of influence. For instance, Isis, one of the most beloved and powerful goddesses, was associated with magic, healing, and protection. She was often invoked in spells meant to safeguard loved ones or restore health. Isis herself was a master of spells, once using magic to learn the secret name of the sun god Re, which gave her immense power. Another example is Anubis, the god of mummification and the afterlife, who was often called upon in funerary rites to guide the souls of the dead. His presence was key to ensuring a smooth passage into the afterlife, with spells and prayers invoking his guidance to protect the deceased from the dangers of the underworld. Rituals, too, were central to Egyptian magic. These rituals often involved a combination of spoken spells, symbolic gestures, and offerings to the gods. For example, during the festival of Weepa Trempet, the Egyptian New Year, priests performed elaborate rituals to renew the powers of the pharaoh and ensure prosperity for the kingdom. Ritual tools like ceremonial masks, sistrums, musical instruments used in religious ceremonies, and incense burners were used to call forth the presence of deities and spirits, creating a sacred space for the magical rites to unfold. One particularly powerful and well-known magical ritual was the opening the mouth ceremony, which was performed during the mummification process. This ritual was believed to restore the senses of the dead so they could eat, drink, and speak in the afterlife. The process involved intricate steps, including the use of sacred tools like the adze, a small instrument shaped like a crescent, to symbolically open the mouth and eyes of the deceased. The opening the mouth ritual was more than just a spiritual rite. It was a profound expression of the Egyptians' belief in the continuity of life after death. They understood that death was not the end, but merely a transition to a different existence, and the magic they performed was essential to ensure this transition went smoothly. It also demonstrated their belief in the interconnectedness of the physical and spiritual worlds. Every action taken in this world had ripples in the afterlife. Another fascinating aspect of Egyptian magic is the use of amulets. The ankh, for example, symbolized life and was often placed on mummies to ensure a continuation of life in the afterlife. Amulets of scarab beetles were also used for protection, as they were believed to hold transformative powers. Just as the beetle could transform waste into nourishment, these amulets were thought to bring transformation and regeneration to the soul. The Egyptians also had spells for everyday needs, such as protection against illness, good harvests, or success in personal ventures. One such example is the Sipi of Horus, a type of protective charm that depicted the child god Horus standing on crocodiles while holding dangerous animals. It was meant to protect against bites from venomous creatures and was often placed in homes or temples as a form of spiritual protection. Our journey into the mysteries of ancient Egyptian magic has revealed a complex, multifaceted system that wove together mythology, astrology, and spiritual practices. Egyptian magic wasn't just about casting spells. It was an entire worldview that connected the physical and spiritual worlds. From Isis and Anubis to the intricate spells contained in texts like the Book of the Dead, ancient Egyptian magic was central to how they understood life, death, and the cosmos. By exploring the magical texts, rituals, and deities of ancient Egypt, we can gain a deeper appreciation for their ingenuity, creativity, and profound reverence for the mysteries of life and death. Even today, their magical practices continue to intrigue enthusiasts and scholars alike, leaving us to wonder what other secrets might still be hidden in the sands of time. If you enjoyed this exploration of ancient magic, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out my other videos on mystical traditions from around the world. Did you know Anubis, the iconic Egyptian god of death, wasn't always the ruler of the underworld? Even though we often think of him as the sole guide for souls into the afterlife, his role was far more complicated. In fact, Anubis faced a betrayal that completely changed his destiny, a betrayal that came from the very gods he had loyally served. Today, we'll unravel the untold story of Anubis, the god who was betrayed and lost his throne in the underworld. Anubis, with his jackal head and mysterious presence, is one of the most recognizable gods in Egyptian mythology. To the ancient Egyptians, he represented death, mummification, and the protection of souls as they journeyed into the afterlife. His role was sacred. He was the god who ensured the dead were prepared for their final judgment. In many ways, Anubis was a protector, one who guided the deceased through the most dangerous part of their journey, the afterlife. But there's more to his story than just embalming and guiding souls. He was part of a power struggle, one that would forever change his place among the gods. Anubis's role in the underworld wasn't always stable. While he was initially the god of death, things shifted after the rise of another god, Osiris. As the legend goes, Osiris, the god of fertility and rebirth, was brutally murdered by his own brother, Set, the god of chaos. After Set dismembered Osiris's body and scattered the pieces across Egypt, it was Anubis who helped gather the remains and preserve them, allowing Osiris to be resurrected. It was an act of pure turning point for Anubis. The gods, particularly Ra, the sun god, recognized Osiris's resurrection and decided that Osiris should be given dominion over the afterlife. This decision left Anubis in a secondary role, demoted from the ruler of the underworld to the god of mummification and embalming. Anubis, who had loyally served the dead for centuries, was suddenly cast aside. It wasn't just a demotion. It was a betrayal from Ra and Osiris, the very gods Anubis had assisted. So, what exactly led to this betrayal? Let's take a step back and explore the mythological history that shaped this conflict. Long before Osiris came into power, Anubis had reigned as the primary god of death. His primary role was to ensure that the souls of the dead were protected and prepared for their journey into the underworld. He was the one who developed the process of mummification, which became a cornerstone of Egyptian funerary practices. The Egyptians believed that through mummification, the dead could be preserved for their resurrection and judgment in the afterlife. Anubis took great care in preparing the dead, ensuring they were ready to meet their fate. The turning point came when Osiris entered the scene. Osiris wasn't originally a god associated with death. He was a god of fertility, agriculture, and the natural cycles of life. But when Set, driven by jealousy, murdered him and scattered his body, Osiris's fate changed forever. Anubis, along with Isis and Nephthys, worked tirelessly to recover the pieces of Osiris's body. Anubis used his skills of embalming to preserve Osiris, helping him become the first being to be resurrected. Ra, seeing the miraculous resurrection of Osiris, believed that Osiris should rule the underworld, for he had died and returned. It seemed only fitting that a god who had experienced death should now preside over it. But in making this decision, Ra overlooked the dedication and loyalty that Anubis had shown. Anubis, who had been the god of the dead for generations, was now stripped of his primary role. It was a deep betrayal, one that would forever change Anubis's place in Egyptian mythology. Despite this, Anubis remained loyal. He did not rebel against Osiris or Ra. Instead, he accepted his new role as the god of embalming, ensuring that the dead would continue to be properly prepared for their journey into the afterlife. He became the protector of tombs and was often depicted standing guard over the mummified bodies of the dead. He even performed the weighing of the heart ceremony, where the hearts of the deceased were measured against the feather of Maat, the goddess of truth and justice. Though he no longer ruled the underworld, Anubis still played a vital role in determining the fate of souls. The climactic moment in Anubis's story comes when Ra officially hands over the title of Lord of the Underworld to Osiris. Anubis, who had been the sole ruler of the dead, was now reduced to an assistant, a helper in the grand scheme of the afterlife. This transition wasn't just about power. It represented a shift in how the ancient Egyptians viewed death itself. With Osiris as the ruler of the underworld, death was no longer a final end, but rather a path to resurrection and eternal life. Anubis's demotion signified this change. Death, which was once feared, became something more complex, a cycle of death and rebirth, governed by Osiris. Yet Anubis did not resist this change. Instead, he continued to play his part in the grand design of the gods, albeit in a different capacity. But the betrayal didn't come without its consequences. Anubis's presence began to diminish in later Egyptian mythology. While he was still respected, Osiris took the spotlight, becoming the most prominent god associated with the afterlife. Anubis's loyalty, while admirable, led to his reduced status in the pantheon. The gods had betrayed him, and in a way, so did the people, as Osiris's cult grew in prominence while Anubis's faded into the background. Yet, even with this betrayal, Anubis's role in Egyptian mythology remained significant. His image, with the black jackal head, symbolizes death, protection, and mummification. Even though he was overshadowed by Osiris, Anubis continues to evoke mystery and reverence in the stories of ancient Egypt. In the end, Anubis's story isn't just about death. It's about loyalty, betrayal, and the shifting power dynamics among the gods. Despite being betrayed by Ra and Osiris, Anubis remained a vital part of the afterlife, ensuring that souls were protected and that death remained sacred. His loyalty, even in the face of betrayal, made him one of the most enduring figures in Egyptian mythology. Anubis reminds us that sometimes, even when we give everything, we might still be pushed aside. But true loyalty, like that of Anubis, isn't about power, it's about duty. And though his role may have changed, Anubis's presence continues to loom large over the Egyptian afterlife. What do you think of Anubis's story? Does it change your perspective on this mysterious god of death? Let me know in the comments. And if you're fascinated by tales of ancient Egyptian mythology, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check out our next video where we explore the rise of Osiris and the battle between him and Set. Stay tuned for more mythological mysteries. Cleopatra VII, the last active ruler of the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt, is often remembered for her intelligence, beauty, and her relationships with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. But what many people don't realize is that before she ever became involved with the Romans, Cleopatra had to navigate a dangerous political landscape within her own family. Her relationships with her brothers were more than just family squabbles. They were battles for survival, control, and the future of Egypt. Cleopatra's family, the Ptolemies, were no strangers to infighting. Since the dynasty's foundation, sibling rivalry had been a common theme in their pursuit of power. Cleopatra's rise to power was no exception. Born into a royal family where alliances and betrayals were the norm, Cleopatra found herself in a constant power struggle with her younger brothers, Ptolemy XIII and Ptolemy XIV. Let's start with Ptolemy XIII, her younger brother and first co-ruler. By ancient Egyptian custom, Cleopatra and Ptolemy XIII were married when she ascended the throne, but this was purely a political arrangement. Cleopatra was 18 at the time, and Ptolemy XIII was only about 10 years old. As you can imagine, ruling alongside a child wasn't easy. Cleopatra was determined to rule in her own right, but Ptolemy XII's advisors, led by a cunning eunuch named Pothinus, quickly began to undermine her authority. Tensions between Cleopatra and Ptolemy XIII grew rapidly. Cleopatra's attempts to assert dominance were met with resistance, leading to a civil war that would soon engulf Egypt. Ptolemy's advisors convinced him that Cleopatra was too powerful and that she needed to be removed from power entirely. In a drastic move, Ptolemy XIII and his council forced Cleopatra to flee Alexandria. However, Cleopatra was not one to be easily defeated. She sought refuge and aligned herself with one of the most powerful men in the world, Julius Caesar. In what is perhaps one of the most legendary moments of her life, Cleopatra had herself smuggled into Caesar's chambers, reportedly rolled up in a carpet, to plead her case. This bold move won her Caesar's favor, and with his military backing, she was able to return to Alexandria, sparking the Alexandrian War. The war culminated in the infamous Battle of the Nile, where Caesar's forces decisively defeated Ptolemy XII's army. Ptolemy XIII, in a desperate attempt to escape, drowned in the Nile River. Cleopatra had successfully regained her throne, But the cost of this victory was the life of her own brother. Even after the death of Ptolemy XIII, Cleopatra's troubles were far from over. She now had to share power with another of her younger brothers, Ptolemy XIV, who she married according to tradition. But, much like her previous co-regency, this was merely a facade. Cleopatra maintained full control over Egypt, while Ptolemy XIV, who was still a boy, had little say in matters of state. Once again, Cleopatra relied on her intelligence and political savvy to maintain power, but she didn't just stop there. After Caesar's assassination in 44 BC, Cleopatra was quick to align herself with Mark Antony, one of Rome's most powerful men and Caesar's ally. This alliance, both romantic and political, strengthened Cleopatra's position but further strained her relationship with her brother Ptolemy XIV. Some sources suggest that Cleopatra saw her younger brother as a potential threat to her rule, and in a move that stunned even her contemporaries, she had Ptolemy XIV poisoned, clearing the way for her son, Caesarion, fathered by Julius Caesar, to become her co-ruler. This ruthless decision highlights just how far Cleopatra was willing to go to secure her throne. She knew that any potential rival could weaken her grip on power, and in the cutthroat world of ancient politics, family ties often came second to survival. Cleopatra's reign was marked by more than just these familial betrayals. The Ptolemaic dynasty was one of the most tumultuous in ancient history, and Cleopatra's relationships with her brothers are a prime example of how power struggles within royal families could shape the course of history. Cleopatra herself had witnessed the brutal tactics of her predecessors. For example, her father, Ptolemy XII, had been forced into exile after losing the support of the Alexandrian people, only to return with the help of Roman forces. This pattern of relying on foreign intervention to secure the throne was not new, but Cleopatra mastered it in a way that was unprecedented. It's important to understand that ancient Egypt during Cleopatra's time was not the Egypt of the grand pyramids and pharaohs of old. By this point, Egypt had been under foreign rule for centuries, and the Ptolemies themselves were of Macedonian Greek origin, not native Egyptians. Cleopatra, however, was unique among the Ptolemies in that she embraced Egyptian culture more fully than her predecessors. She spoke the Egyptian language, adopted religious symbols, and portrayed herself as the reincarnation of the goddess Isis. This helped to endear her to the Egyptian people, even as she navigated the dangerous waters of her own family's treachery. The Ptolemaic dynasty had always been marked by sibling rivalry and intrigue. For example, Cleopatra's own ancestors had seen similar struggles for power. Ptolemy VIII, known as Ptolemy Physcon, had famously married his niece, Cleopatra II, only to later marry her daughter, Cleopatra III, creating a web of family alliances and betrayals that spanned generations. Cleopatra was well aware of this history and knew that if she didn't act decisively, she could easily end up like her predecessors, overthrown or even dead. And of course, we can't discuss Cleopatra's story without mentioning her infamous relationship with Mark Antony. While her involvement with Julius Caesar had solidified her hold on power, her alliance with Antony would ultimately lead to her downfall. Their partnership, while initially successful, angered Rome, particularly Octavian, Caesar's heir and future Emperor Augustus. The Roman propaganda machine went into full swing, portraying Cleopatra as a manipulative seductress who had bewitched Antony, threatening the very stability of Rome. Their eventual defeat at the Battle of Actium marked the beginning of the end for Cleopatra's reign. But despite her dramatic downfall, Cleopatra's legacy endured. Her ability to navigate the treacherous world of politics, both within her family and on the international stage, remains a testament to her intelligence and resourcefulness. She was more than just a beautiful queen. She was a shrewd political operator who understood the importance of alliances, strategy, and timing. In the end, Cleopatra's relationships with her brothers were a key factor in her rise to power, but they also highlight the brutal realities of life as a ruler in ancient Egypt. Her willingness to betray her own blood to secure her throne shows just how high the stakes were. Yet, despite the betrayals, wars, and tragic endings, Cleopatra remains one of the most fascinating and complex figures in history. Her reign might have ended in tragedy, but her legacy lives on, not just as a queen who was involved with two of Rome's most powerful men, but as a ruler who fought tooth and nail to maintain her hold on Egypt. Cleopatra's story is a reminder that power, especially in the ancient world, often came at a steep price. Thanks for watching. If you want to dive deeper into the secrets of ancient Egypt and Cleopatra's world, make sure to check out our video on the mysterious and shocking truths behind the construction of the pyramids. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know in the comments, what do you think was Cleopatra's greatest strength as a ruler? Did you know that the legacy of ancient Egyptian pharaohs still influences our world today? From the grand pyramids that touch the sky to the intricate tales of power, intrigue, and divine rule, the story of the pharaohs captivates our imagination. Join me as we journey through the rich history of these kings and queens of ancient Egypt. Welcome to our exploration of the pharaohs, those enigmatic rulers who governed one of history's most powerful civilizations. Their reigns were marked by monumental achievements, dramatic narratives, and profound cultural impact. Today, we'll delve into their lives, examining famous figures like Ramses II, Tutankhamun, and Cleopatra, and uncovering the enduring legacy they left behind. The story begins with the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt around 3100 BCE. Narmer, also known as Menes, is credited with this monumental achievement, symbolized by the Narmer palette, which depicts his victory. The pharaohs were considered divine rulers, intermediaries between the gods and the people, a belief that justified their absolute power. This divine kingship established a strong connection between the pharaoh and the gods, shaping the political and religious landscape of ancient Egypt. One of the most renowned pharaohs was Ramses II, often referred to as Ramses the Great. His reign from 1279 to 1213 BCE was marked by monumental construction projects, including the iconic temples at Abu Simbel, which were carved out of a mountainside to honor himself and the gods. Ramses II also engaged in significant military campaigns, most notably the Battle of Kadesh, where he faced off against the Hittites. His strategic prowess and impressive peace treaty showcased his ability to maintain stability in a tumultuous period. Next, we turn to Tutankhamun, the boy king who ascended the throne at just 9 years old. His reign may have been short-lived, but it became legendary after the discovery of his nearly intact tomb in 1922 by Howard Carter. The treasures found within, including his famous golden mask, offered invaluable insights into ancient Egyptian burial practices and material culture. Tutankhamun's restoration of traditional polytheistic worship after the monotheistic reign of Akhenaten further illustrates the dynamic nature of ancient Egyptian religion. No discussion of pharaohs would be complete without Cleopatra VII, the last pharaoh of Egypt. Known for her intelligence and political acumen, she forged alliances with powerful Roman leaders, including Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, to preserve her kingdom's independence amidst Roman expansion. Cleopatra's reign marked a significant cultural exchange between Rome and Egypt, influencing art, literature, and politics. Her dramatic life and untimely death symbolized the end of an era, as Egypt transitioned from a pharaonic dynasty to Roman rule. The construction of the pyramid stands as one of the most enduring legacies of the pharaohs. The Great Pyramid of Giza, built for Pharaoh Khufu, remains a testament to the ingenuity and ambition of ancient Egyptian engineering. Theories about how these monumental structures were built range from the use of a massive labor force to sophisticated ramps and levers. Each pyramid served not just as a tomb, but also as a symbol of the pharaoh's divine status and their journey into the afterlife. The pharaohs were deeply entwined with Egyptian mythology and religion. Major gods like Osiris, Isis, and Ra played crucial roles in daily life and governance. The pharaoh was often seen as the living embodiment of Horus, the sky god, and their reign was justified through the myth of divine order. Elaborate burial practices, including mummification and the construction of elaborate tombs, reflected the belief in an afterlife, ensuring the pharaoh's continued influence beyond death. While male pharaohs often dominated history, powerful women also shaped ancient Egypt. Hatshepsut, one of the few female pharaohs, ruled during the 18th dynasty and is known for her ambitious building projects, including her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari. Nefertiti, the wife of Akhenaten, played a significant role in promoting the worship of the sun god Aten. Their reigns illustrate the vital contributions of women in a male-dominated society. The decline of pharaonic power was gradual, influenced by internal strife, foreign invasions, and economic challenges. As Egypt faced incursions from the Libyans, Nubians, and eventually the Persians, the centralized power of the pharaohs weakened. The shift from divine kingship to foreign rule marked a significant transformation in Egyptian society. The pharaohs of ancient Egypt were not just rulers. They were cultural icons whose legacies continue to inspire awe and fascination. Their stories remind us of the complexity of leadership, the significance of cultural exchange, and the enduring impact of history on our modern world. What fascinates you the most about ancient Egyptian pharaohs? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more captivating tales from history. Join me as I dig deep into the mysteries of the Sphinx and try to uncover secrets buried in the desert sand. The Great Sphinx of Giza is one of the most iconic and mysterious monuments of ancient Egypt, standing watch over the pyramids and shrouded in secrecy and speculation for thousands of years. It has captured the imagination of historians, archaeologists, and travelers alike, each wondering about its true origins, purpose, and the stories hidden within its stone. But when it comes to unraveling the secrets of the Sphinx, historians and archaeologists face a multitude of challenges. One of the greatest obstacles in uncovering its secrets is the lack of written records. Unlike many other Egyptian monuments, there are no inscriptions or detailed accounts that explain its construction or purpose. This has led scholars to rely on theories, many of which are based on the surrounding archaeological context and the study of pharaonic history. Another challenge lies in the sheer age of the Sphinx. Believed to have been constructed around 2500 BC during the reign of Pharaoh Khafre, the monument has withstood millennia of erosion from the desert's harsh winds and sands. The relentless elements have eroded its surface, erasing intricate details and making it more difficult to determine its original appearance. On top of that, the Sphinx has undergone multiple restorations over the centuries, some of which may have altered its original features. These renovations have created more questions than answers about what is truly original and what was added later. To make matters worse, treasure hunters and looters have disrupted the surrounding area in search of valuables, further complicating efforts to understand its history. Despite these challenges, one of the prevailing theories is that the Sphinx was built as a monument to Pharaoh Khafre, whose pyramid stands nearby. Many scholars believe the Sphinx represents the likeness of Khafre himself, symbolizing his divine power and strength. This theory is supported by the Sphinx's proximity to the Khafre pyramid and its alignment with the architectural elements of the Giza Plateau. However, alternative theories suggest the Sphinx may have served other purposes. Some believe it could have been a guardian of the pyramids, standing watch over the sacred tombs of the pharaohs. Others speculate that the Sphinx was a symbol of divine wisdom, reflecting the pharaoh's role as a mediator between the gods and the people. In recent years, the discovery of tunnels and passageways beneath the Sphinx has added a new layer of intrigue. These hidden chambers, which have only been partially explored, may hold the key to understanding the true purpose of the Sphinx. Some researchers believe these tunnels could lead to undiscovered artifacts or texts that shed light on the monument's construction and significance. Could these chambers contain the lost knowledge of the ancient builders, or are they the result of later modifications? One of the most controversial theories surrounding the Sphinx is that it might be much older than traditionally believed. Some geologists studying erosion patterns on the Sphinx's body have proposed that the monument was exposed to significant rainfall and flooding, possibly during the end of the last ice age, around 10,000 BC. If true, this would place the construction of the Sphinx thousands of years before the reign of Khafre, potentially making it one of the oldest monuments on Earth. This theory, known as the water erosion hypothesis, has sparked fierce debate among scholars. If the Sphinx truly predates the pyramids, it would force us to reconsider everything we know about early Egyptian civilization. It could suggest that an earlier, lost civilization built the Sphinx, and that much of Egypt's monumental architecture may have been inspired by this forgotten era. Beyond its construction and purpose, the Sphinx has long been a symbol of mystery, power, and wisdom. Its lion body and human head are believed to represent the combination of animal strength and human intelligence, qualities that the ancient Egyptians revered. Some also associate the Sphinx with the sun god Ra, as it faces east toward the rising sun. This alignment has led to speculation that the Sphinx played a role in solar worship, possibly acting as a protector or symbol of rebirth and renewal. In modern culture, the Sphinx's enigmatic presence continues to captivate the imagination. From movies and books to documentaries and artwork, the Sphinx has become an enduring symbol of mystery and the quest for knowledge. It has appeared in countless biographies and historical profiles, representing the endless pursuit of uncovering the truth about our past. Its image serves as a reminder that even in the modern world, there are still secrets left to be discovered, waiting to be unearthed by those who dare to seek them. As we continue to explore the mysteries of the Sphinx, we are reminded that the pursuit of knowledge is never complete. There are always new questions to ask, new secrets to uncover, and new discoveries to be made. The Great Sphinx of Giza is not just a monument from the past. It is a living symbol of humanity's curiosity and determination to understand the world around us. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the heart of the Sphinx. If you have any thoughts or theories about this ancient enigma, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. And if you'd like me to explore more ancient mysteries in future videos, let me know. Atlas, the strongest of the Titans, was condemned to an eternity of holding up the sky. But was his punishment truly deserved, or was it an overreaction by Zeus? In today's video, we're diving deep into the myth of Atlas to uncover whether the punishment fit the crime, or if there's more to the story than meets the eye. Greek mythology is filled with powerful gods, rebellious titans, and epic punishments. One of the most famous punishments is the story of Atlas. As a leader of the Titans in their battle against Zeus and the Olympians, Atlas faced a fate that would change his life forever. After the Titans were defeated in the Titanomachy, the great war between the old gods and the new, Zeus sentenced Atlas to hold the weight of the heavens on his shoulders for all eternity. But was this punishment really justified, or was Atlas simply a victim of Zeus' wrath? To understand Atlas' fate, we have to go back to the beginning. The Titanomachy was an all-out war between the Titans, led by Cronus, and the Olympians, led by Zeus. Atlas wasn't just any Titan. He was a commander, a symbol of strength, and a close ally of Cronus. In many versions of the myth, he's depicted as one of the most dedicated fighters against the Olympian gods, standing tall and fearless in the face of Zeus' rebellion. When the Olympians won the war, Zeus had a choice: forgive or punish. For most Titans, the punishment was imprisonment in Tartarus, the deepest part of the underworld. But for Atlas, Zeus had something far more personal in mind. Instead of being thrown into Tartarus like his fellow Titans, Atlas was given a unique and symbolic punishment: holding up the heavens on his shoulders. In some interpretations, this means holding up the sky to separate it from the earth. It's a burden that represents not just physical strength, but also immense responsibility. But why Atlas? Many myths suggest that Atlas' punishment was meant to be a warning, a reminder to anyone who dared to defy Zeus. Atlas wasn't just any Titan. He was one of the key players in the war, and by making him bear the weight of the heavens, Zeus asserted his dominance over both the Titans and the universe itself. Now, let's dive into the real question. Did Atlas deserve this punishment? On one hand, he did actively fight against the Olympians and sought to keep the Titans in power. But compared to other punishments, was this fate too harsh? Other Titans, like Cronus, were simply imprisoned in Tartarus. Prometheus, another famous Titan, suffered daily torment, but even his punishment eventually ended. In contrast, Atlas' punishment was never-ending. It wasn't just painful, it was isolating. Condemned to hold up the sky for all eternity, Atlas was separated from both the earth below and the gods above. Some scholars believe that this punishment was symbolic of more than just rebellion. Atlas, in a way, represented the burden of leadership and responsibility. His fate could be interpreted as Zeus' way of forcing Atlas to bear the weight of the world, literally and figuratively, for his actions. The image of Atlas, carrying the heavens on his shoulders, has become one of the most enduring symbols in mythology. In fact, even today, we often refer to people who bear heavy responsibilities as having the weight of the world on their shoulders. But what's interesting is how different cultures and periods interpreted Atlas' punishment. In some ancient art, Atlas is depicted as a tragic figure, stoic and strong, yet forever burdened. This can be seen as a metaphor for endurance in the face of hardship. Some versions of the myth even suggest that Atlas wasn't being punished, but rather, he was chosen because he was the only one strong enough to hold up the heavens. Was Zeus perhaps acknowledging Atlas' strength, even in defeat? Atlas' story didn't end with his punishment. He appears in other myths as well, most notably when the hero Heracles, or Hercules, comes to him for help during his 12 labors. Heracles needed the golden apples from the Garden of the Hesperides, and Atlas, being the father of the Hesperides, knew the way. For a brief moment, Atlas was free from his burden. Heracles took his place, holding the heavens while Atlas retrieved the apples. However, when Atlas tried to trick Heracles into forever, Heracles outsmarted him and left Atlas to resume his eternal task. This part of the myth adds another layer to Atlas' character, one of cunning, perhaps desperation, but ultimately a return to his fate. So, did Atlas deserve his punishment? In many ways, Atlas' fate feels disproportionate to his crime. After all, he was just one of many titans who opposed Zeus. But Zeus' decision to make Atlas bear the weight of the heavens wasn't just about punishment. It was about sending a message. Atlas' story continues to captivate us because it resonates with the concept of strength, responsibility, and the price of rebellion. His punishment was not just physical, but deeply symbolic, and it continues to remind us of the balance of power and the burdens that come with leadership. What do you think? Was Atlas' punishment fair? Or was Zeus simply asserting his dominance? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the myths and legends of ancient history. If you enjoyed this video, check out my other videos on Greek mythology, where we explore the fascinating stories of the gods, titans. Join me as I dive into the wild world of Seth, the Egyptian god of chaos and disorder, and see if I can uncover his secrets while tackling some chaotic challenges along the way. Seth has often been considered one of the more controversial figures in Egyptian mythology, but there's so much more to him than his role as a troublemaker. He's a god of complexity, duality, and balance. And by the end of this video, you'll see why. So, buckle up as we tackle Seth's wild and often misunderstood story. Now, Seth is known as the god of chaos, but let's explore what that really means. On the surface, his name is associated with disorder, but Seth wasn't just some random force of destruction. He had a significant role in maintaining the balance of the universe. Despite his chaotic nature, Seth was necessary for keeping the forces of creation and destruction in harmony. So, how does a god known for causing so much chaos also become vital to the world's balance? Let's find out. For the ancient Egyptians, balance was everything. Without it, the world would descend into chaos. But here's where things get interesting. Chaos wasn't always bad. Seth, as the god of chaos, was paradoxically also the protector of pharaohs, especially in the afterlife. While Seth might seem like a destructive force, he was also the one who kept the forces of the underworld in check. Isn't it fascinating that this god, who represents so much disruption, could also be seen as a protector? Seth's dual nature is what makes him so captivating. On the one hand, he was the god of the desert and foreign lands, places that were seen as hostile and dangerous. Because of this, he was sometimes seen as an outsider among the other Egyptian gods. His connection to the barren, desolate desert lands made him a figure of fear and awe. But on the other hand, Seth had his moments of heroism. For example, He defended the sun god Ra from the monstrous serpent Apophis during Ra's nightly journey through the underworld. Talk about a wild ride. But despite these positive moments, Seth is most famous, or should I say infamous, for his role in the myth of Osiris. According to Egyptian legend, Seth killed his brother Osiris, the god of the afterlife, cutting his body into pieces and scattering them across Egypt. But the story doesn't end there. Osiris' wife, Isis, gathered the pieces and, with the help of magic, brought him back to life just long enough to conceive their son, Horus. Now, here's where the epic battle comes in. Seth wasn't exactly thrilled about Horus, the son of Osiris, claiming the throne of Egypt. What followed was one of the most intense rivalries in all of mythology, Seth versus Horus. Their battles weren't just physical. They were symbolic of the struggle between chaos and order. While Horus represented light, justice, and kingship, Seth represented disorder and the unknown. This conflict wasn't just about two gods fighting. It was a representation of the eternal struggle that the Egyptians believed governed the universe. Seth's defeat by Horus marked a significant turning point in Egyptian mythology. Horus became the king of Egypt, and Seth, the god of chaos, was cast into the desert. But even then, Seth's role wasn't over. The Egyptians knew that chaos was never truly vanquished. It was simply kept at bay. This delicate balance between Seth's chaotic nature and Horus' order was essential to the Egyptians' understanding of the universe. Seth's story is a reminder that even chaos has its place in the grand scheme of things. While he might be feared for his destructive tendencies, he also had moments of heroism and protection. In the end, Seth symbolizes the eternal struggle between chaos and order, forces that are not just opposites, but parts of a whole. So, next time you think about chaos, remember Seth and how even the most disruptive forces can have a purpose in maintaining balance. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the world of Seth, the Egyptian god of chaos and disorder. If you enjoyed learning about his complex role in Egyptian mythology, hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments. Which part of Seth's story surprised you the most? And don't forget to subscribe for more videos on ancient myths and legends. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring. Join me as I dive into the mystery of the Trojan War to see if I can find real archaeological evidence that backs up Homer's Iliad. The Trojan War, an epic tale of love, honor, and war, has captivated human imagination for millennia. From Homer's ancient epic poem, the Iliad, to modern-day Hollywood blockbusters, the story of Troy has been retold and reinterpreted countless times. But as we immerse ourselves in this world of heroism and tragedy, a nagging question lingers. Did the Trojan War actually happen, or is it just a product of ancient Greek mythology? This question has intrigued scholars, archaeologists, and historians for centuries. The challenge of distinguishing between myth and historical fact is not an easy one. On the one hand, we have the Iliad, a literary masterpiece brimming with gods, larger-than-life heroes, and divine intervention in human affairs. On the other hand, we have the archaeological record, which, while much more grounded in physical evidence, leaves us with many unanswered questions. How do we separate the mythological embellishments from possible historical events? One of the reasons this debate has persisted for so long is that the Iliad is a work of literature, not a historical account in the traditional sense. As an epic poem, it blends history, mythology, and legend, leaving modern scholars with the task of sorting fact from fiction. The debate over the reality of the Trojan War begins with these literary questions, but it extends deep into the realm of archaeology. Those who believe that the Trojan War was purely a myth point to the numerous anachronisms in the Iliad. The presence of gods on the battlefield, Achilles' near invincibility, and the wooden horse used to trick the Trojans into their own demise, all make it difficult to believe that such events could have any historical basis. However, others argue that, despite its mythological aspects, the Iliad's attention to geographical details and the vivid description of Troy itself point to the possibility that Homer was drawing upon real historical events. This brings us to the archaeological record. Is there any evidence that can either support or refute the idea that the Trojan War, or at least some form of it, really took place? One of the key figures in the search for Troy was Heinrich Schliemann, a German archaeologist who, in the 19th century, believed he had uncovered the remains of the ancient city of Troy in modern-day Turkey. His discovery at a site called Hizarlik unearthed what he thought were the ruins of the city described in Homer's Iliad. However, Schliemann's methods were controversial. Critics argue that his excavation techniques were crude by today's standards, and that his eagerness to match his finds to Homer's story may have led him to interpret the evidence too optimistically. Nonetheless, the discovery of Hizarlik opened the door to serious scholarly investigation. Archaeologists who followed in Schliemann's footsteps uncovered evidence that suggests that the site had been occupied for thousands of years, with layers upon layers of cities built atop one another. This layered cake of destruction and rebuilding provides a tantalizing puzzle. If there really was a Trojan War, which layer of the city might correspond to the one destroyed in Homer's account? One layer in particular has drawn significant attention, known as Troy VIA. This layer dates back to approximately 1180 BCE, around the time the Trojan War is thought to have occurred. The city in this layer shows clear signs of violent destruction, possibly by fire, which corresponds with Homer's description of the fall of Troy. Some of the artifacts found in this layer, including pottery and gold jewelry, suggest a culture that closely resembles that of the Mycenaean Greeks, who were said to have besieged Troy in the Iliad. However, the lack of direct evidence, such as weapons or armor that could be definitively linked to the Greek invaders, leaves room for doubt. Critics argue that the destruction of Troy VIA could have been caused by a variety of factors, including natural disasters, local conflicts, or invasions by other groups, rather than by a grand war between the Greeks and Trojans, as described in the Iliad. This is where the debate intensifies. Proponents of the historical Trojan War theory point to the circumstantial evidence, the convergence of archaeological findings, the linguistic clues in Homer's text, and the cultural exchange between the Mycenaeans and the people of Troy as strong indicators that the story may have roots in real events. They argue that the epic poem, while embellished with mythological details, could have been based on an actual conflict, with the characters and events exaggerated over time. On the other hand, skeptics argue that while Troy may have been a real place and could have experienced a conflict, the war described by Homer is more likely a fictionalized version of various historical events, amalgamated into one grand story. They point to the lack of direct evidence tying the city's destruction to a Greek invasion and the absence of conclusive artifacts, such as Mycenaean weaponry, that would support the Iliad-esque narrative. Another piece of the puzzle lies in the cultural significance of the Iliad itself. Homer's epic was written centuries after the events it describes are thought to have occurred, during a time when oral tradition was the primary means of preserving history. It's possible that the Iliad represents a collective memory of various wars fought by the Mycenaeans, with the story of Troy standing in as a symbol for these broader conflicts. Despite the gaps in the archaeological record, it's hard to ignore the compelling details that suggest there may be more to the story than mere myth. The fact that the Iliad provides such vivid descriptions of places, characters, and events has led some scholars to suggest that it could be based on real historical figures, with Achilles, Hector, and Agamemnon possibly inspired by actual leaders of the time. As we piece together the evidence from Hizarlik, the ongoing excavations continue to reveal more about the ancient city of Troy. Each new discovery brings us closer to understanding whether the Trojan War was a historical event, a poetic retelling of real conflicts, or a masterful blend of fact and fiction. Scholars have discovered more artifacts that shed light on life in ancient Troy, including tools, remnants of fortifications, and intricate ceramics, further enhancing our understanding of this enigmatic city. In my opinion, the most compelling argument for the historical authenticity of the Trojan War comes from the sheer accumulation of circumstantial evidence. While each individual piece of evidence may be open to interpretation, the convergence of multiple lines of evidence, from the archaeological record to the linguistic and cultural analysis of the Iliad, suggests that there may be more to the story than just myth. Of course, this is not to say that the events described in the Iliad happened exactly as written, but rather that there may be a kernel of truth hidden beneath the layers of myth and legend. So, what's the verdict? Did the Trojan War actually happen, or is it just a product of ancient Greek imagination? The debate will likely continue for generations to come, with each new discovery shedding more light on the mystery. One thing is certain, however: the search for Troy is a testament to human curiosity and our enduring fascination with the past. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the heart of the Trojan War mystery. If you've got thoughts on the subject, be sure to share them in the comments below. And if you're ready to dive into more historical mysteries, be sure to check out my next video. Prepare to embark on an extraordinary journey that will challenge everything you think you know about human history. Could it be that ancient civilizations were not as isolated as we've always believed? What if humanity's greatest achievements, the construction of the pyramids, the creation of the Nazca lines, and other monumental feats, weren't solely the work of mankind, but influenced by visitors from beyond our world? The theory of ancient aliens has fascinated and mystified people for decades. Today, we're diving deep into Erich von Daniken's groundbreaking book and documentary, Chariots of the Gods, which raises an astonishing question. Were ancient civilizations visited by extraterrestrial beings? Stick around as we uncover mind-blowing evidence that might change the way you see history forever. The idea of extraterrestrial contact with ancient civilizations, known as the ancient astronaut theory, suggests that aliens may have played a role in shaping human history. This theory, popularized by Erich von Daniken, argues that some of our ancestors' greatest achievements, from advanced architecture to complex knowledge of the stars, were either influenced or directly aided by beings from other worlds. But why would extraterrestrials visit Earth? And what clues did they leave behind to prove it? Many point to ancient texts, strange artifacts, and inexplicable structures that continue to baffle historians and scientists alike. Let's start by examining one of the most iconic mysteries: the Pyramids of Giza. These massive, perfectly aligned structures are more than just impressive tombs for Egypt's ancient rulers. Some argue that their advanced design and precise construction hint at knowledge far beyond what should have been possible for the time. The Great Pyramid, for example, was constructed with such accuracy that modern engineers are still puzzled by how it was achieved without modern technology. Were the Egyptians using knowledge imparted by extraterrestrials? And if so, what was the true purpose of these towering monuments? Another enigmatic site is the Nazca lines in Peru. Sprawling across the desert floor, these massive geoglyphs can only be fully appreciated from the sky. They depict animals, geometric shapes, and humanoid figures, leading some to believe they were created as messages or markers for visitors from above. The question remains: why would an ancient civilization create such intricate designs if they could only be seen from the air? Could the Nazca people have been communicating with beings who could fly? But it's not just the structures that raise questions. There are countless ancient artifacts and texts that suggest extraterrestrial contact. Take, for example, the ancient Sumerian tablets. These texts, dating back thousands of years, describe beings called the Anunnaki, who came down from the sky to teach humanity the arts of civilization. Were the Anunnaki simply mythological gods, or could they have been extraterrestrial visitors sharing advanced knowledge with early humans? Then there's the mystery of the ancient Indian texts, particularly the Vedas, which contain descriptions of flying machines called Vimanas. These ancient scriptures speak of celestial beings piloting these flying crafts across the skies, engaging in aerial battles, and traveling between worlds. It's fascinating to think that the concept of flying vehicles existed in human imagination long before modern technology made it possible. Could these stories have been inspired by real-life encounters with advanced alien technology? Perhaps one of the most compelling and debated pieces of evidence comes from the Bible itself. In the book of Ezekiel, the prophet describes a strange vision of a whirlwind coming from the north, accompanied by a fiery wheel within a wheel. The object was described as being full of eyes and capable of moving in any direction without turning. While traditional interpretations of this vision lean toward the spiritual, some researchers believe Ezekiel might have been describing a close encounter with an extraterrestrial spacecraft. The wheel within a wheel is remarkably similar to modern descriptions of UFOs. Could it be that Ezekiel witnessed something far beyond his comprehension? These ancient stories raise an interesting question. Could many of the gods and deities worshipped by ancient civilizations have actually been extraterrestrial visitors? Throughout history, there are countless examples of gods descending from the heavens to interact with humans. From the Greek gods on Mount Olympus to the divine rulers of ancient Egypt, these beings were often depicted as possessing incredible power and advanced knowledge. But what if these gods weren't supernatural beings at all? What if they were visitors from another planet, mistaken by early humans for deities? Some researchers argue that extraterrestrials may have influenced religious beliefs around the world, leaving behind symbols and rituals that we still practice today. From the mysterious depictions of winged figures in ancient Sumerian art to the fiery chariots described in religious texts, the parallels between stories of gods and potential alien encounters are hard to ignore. Of course, not everyone is convinced. Mainstream historians and archaeologists often dismiss the ancient astronaut theory as pseudoscience, arguing that human ingenuity alone is enough to explain the marvels of ancient architecture and technology. They point out that many of the so-called evidence for alien contact can be explained through traditional methods, such as human experimentation and ingenuity over time. Critics also argue that attributing human achievements to extraterrestrial intervention undermines the capabilities of our ancestors. But for every skeptic, there are also believers who point to the unanswered questions. Why do so many ancient cultures, separated by vast distances and time, have similar myths about beings from the sky? How could civilizations with no contact with each other have developed such advanced knowledge of astronomy, engineering, and mathematics? Could it be more than just coincidence? Whether you believe in the ancient astronaut theory or not, one thing is certain. The mysteries of our past are far from fully understood. From the unexplained structures that continue to baffle scientists to the ancient texts that speak of celestial beings, there's still so much we don't know about our own history. And as we continue to explore the possibilities, the question remains: could we be looking at the remnants of a forgotten encounter with extraterrestrial visitors? So, what do you think? Are ancient aliens responsible for some of the greatest mysteries of human history? Or is it just an imaginative theory? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed this deep dive into the unknown. If you're fascinated by ancient mysteries and the possibility of extraterrestrial contact, be sure to subscribe for more content that explores the questions that could change how we see the world. Thanks for watching, and stay curious. Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of ancient Egypt, was one of history's most captivating figures. Her life was filled with power, romance, and political intrigue, but it was her tragic final days that truly shaped her enduring legacy. Cleopatra's demise wasn't just the fall of a queen. It marked the end of an era. Today, we're diving deep into the complex events leading up to her tragic death and trying to piece together the real story behind her last moments. After the assassination of Julius Caesar in 44 BCE, Cleopatra found herself in an incredibly precarious position. Julius Caesar had been both her lover and protector, and with him gone, her once secure alliance with Rome was suddenly unstable. Egypt was a prosperous but vulnerable kingdom, already weakened by internal strife and years of war. Cleopatra knew that in order to keep her kingdom alive, she had to quickly navigate the shifting political landscape that followed Caesar's death. She was up against not just rivals within Egypt, but a rapidly changing Roman Empire. In the aftermath of Caesar's assassination, Rome descended into chaos, and a new power struggle erupted. Cleopatra's first move was to align herself with another Roman power player, Mark Antony. Antony was one of Caesar's most trusted generals and a member of the powerful triumvirate that now controlled Rome, along with Octavian and Lepidus. Cleopatra and Antony's relationship wasn't just strategic, it was also passionate. Antony was drawn to Cleopatra's intelligence, charisma, and beauty, and the two quickly became lovers. Their alliance, however, was far more than just a romantic affair. It was a calculated move on Cleopatra's part to maintain her power and Egypt's independence. Mark Antony had his own reasons for joining forces with Cleopatra. He needed the wealth and resources that Egypt could provide to strengthen his position in Rome's ongoing civil wars. Cleopatra, in turn, needed Antony's military might to fend off threats both from within Egypt and from Rome. But as their relationship blossomed, it also became a source of scandal and political tension. Antony's enemies in Rome, particularly Octavian, used his relationship with Cleopatra to undermine him, accusing Antony of abandoning Roman values in favor of an exotic foreign queen. The real turning point came in 31 BCE at the Battle of Actium, a decisive naval confrontation between the forces of Octavian and the combined fleets of Antony and Cleopatra. Antony's fleet was ultimately outmatched, and the battle was a disaster for both him and Cleopatra. As Octavian's forces closed in, Antony and Cleopatra were forced to retreat back to Alexandria, where they made their last stand. With their military strength shattered and Octavian's army encircling the city, Cleopatra knew that their time was running out. One of the most pivotal moments during these final days was Cleopatra's realization that Antony's defeat was inevitable. She had long been a master of political maneuvering, using her charm, intelligence, and diplomatic skill to survive in a world dominated by men. But now, even her renowned ability to outwit her opponents was no longer enough to save her kingdom. Alexandria was on the verge of falling, and Cleopatra began to prepare for the worst. She attempted to negotiate with Octavian, hoping to secure a future for herself and her children. But Octavian had no interest in a deal. He wanted total victory, and Cleopatra's defeat was a necessary part of that. With no options left, Cleopatra made one final, fateful decision. According to ancient accounts, she had been keeping a collection of highly venomous asps in her chambers, which she planned to use in the event of her capture. Cleopatra knew that if she were taken prisoner by Octavian, she would be paraded through the streets of Rome as a trophy of war, humiliated in front of the same empire she had once defied. Rather than suffer such a fate, Cleopatra chose to end her life on her own terms. The image of Cleopatra's death, reclining on a bed of silk, calmly applying the deadly snake to her arm, has become one of the most iconic moments in history, though modern historians question the accuracy of this romanticized account. But Cleopatra's suicide was not just a personal act of defiance. It was a political statement. By taking her own life, she denied Octavian the satisfaction of capturing her alive and making her a symbol of his conquest. In death, Cleopatra became a martyr for her people and a symbol of resistance against Rome's expanding empire. Her death also marked the official end of Egypt's ancient monarchy and the beginning of its transformation into a Roman province. The story of Cleopatra's final days is not just a tale of personal tragedy. It's also a reminder of the brutal and unforgiving nature of ancient politics. Cleopatra was a ruler who fought fiercely for her kingdom, her family, and her legacy, but in the end, even she could not escape the power of Rome. Her downfall came not from a lack of intelligence or ambition, but from the overwhelming force of Roman imperialism. Today, Cleopatra is remembered not only for her beauty and her famous lovers, but also for her intelligence, her leadership, and her relentless determination to protect Egypt. Her legacy continues to captivate historians, artists, and filmmakers alike, and her life serves as a powerful reminder of the complex interplay between love, power, and politics in the ancient world. Cleopatra's final act, choosing to end her own life rather than submit to Rome, has become a symbol of defiance and independence. Her death may have marked the end of an era, but her story endures as one of the most fascinating in history. What do you think of Cleopatra's final days? Was she a tragic figure caught in the tides of history, or a brilliant leader who made the best of an impossible situation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to check out our next video on another influential figure from ancient history, Alexander the Great. Thanks for watching. Join me as we delve into the incredible journey of Alexander the Great, one of history's most legendary conquerors. From the moment he ascended the throne of Macedonia in 336 BC at just 20 years old, Alexander faced overwhelming challenges. Yet he forged an empire that stretched from Greece to Egypt and deep into Asia. Alexander's path to greatness was not without obstacles. Upon taking the throne after his father Philip II's assassination, Alexander had to secure his rule over a kingdom that was constantly threatened by internal and external forces. Macedonian nobles questioned his legitimacy, and neighboring regions saw an opportunity to rebel. Alexander wasted no time in quelling these uprisings, displaying both tactical brilliance and ruthless efficiency in consolidating his power. His decisive victories in Thrace, Illyria, and Thebes demonstrated his capability to lead and command absolute loyalty from his soldiers. But Alexander's ambitions extended far beyond securing his kingdom. Inspired by his tutor Aristotle and driven by an insatiable desire for conquest, he set his sights on the Persian Empire, the most powerful kingdom in the known world. In 334 BC, he crossed the Hellespont with his army, marking the beginning of his grand campaign against Persia. It was here, in battle after battle, that Alexander's military genius would be revealed. At the Battle of Granicus, he faced Persian satraps and their Greek mercenaries, a formidable force that could have stopped his advance. But Alexander led his cavalry with unmatched ferocity, charging directly into the heart of the enemy lines. This bold move not only secured victory, but also set the tone for the rest of his campaign. Fearless, relentless, and strategically brilliant. Alexander's next great challenge came at the Battle of Issus in 333 BC, where he faced the Persian king Darius III for the first time. Despite being outnumbered, Alexander's tactical prowess turned the tide of the battle. Using the terrain to his advantage, he launched a surprise attack on Darius's forces, causing chaos and panic among the Persian ranks. Darius fled the battlefield, leaving behind his family and treasures, a testament to Alexander's dominance and his ability to outthink even the most powerful adversaries. However, Alexander's most defining victory came at the Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BC. Here, once again vastly outnumbered by Darius's forces, Alexander employed his famous hammer and anvil tactic. He drew the Persians out of position with his cavalry, creating a gap in their lines, and then delivered a crushing blow with his infantry. This battle marked the final defeat of Darius III, and with it, Alexander claimed the title of King of Persia. But military conquest was only part of Alexander's vision. He sought to unite the many cultures within his vast empire. In Egypt, he was declared a pharaoh and founded the city of Alexandria, which would become a center of learning and culture. He adopted elements of Persian dress and customs, encouraged marriages between his soldiers and local women, and promoted the idea of a blended Greco-Persian ruling class. His aim was not just to conquer, but to create a unified empire where Greek and Eastern cultures could coexist. Throughout his campaign, Alexander faced not only external enemies, but also internal strife. His men, weary from years of marching and fighting, grew restless. In 326 BC, after reaching the banks of the Hyphasis River in India, his army refused to march further, exhausted and longing for home. Though Alexander longed to push on to the ends of the known world, he understood the necessity of maintaining the loyalty of his troops. He reluctantly agreed to turn back, showing that even the greatest of conquerors must at times yield to the needs of those they lead. Alexander's adaptability was also evident in his ability to adjust his strategies as he ventured into unfamiliar territories. In India, he faced King Porus at the Battle of the Hydaspes, where the Indian forces brought war elephants into the fray. This was a new and terrifying challenge, but Alexander, as always, adapted. He outmaneuvered Porus by crossing the river at night and launching a surprise attack, ultimately securing victory and earning the respect of his opponent. Perhaps the most symbolic moment of Alexander's life was his decision to burn his ships after crossing into Persia, removing any possibility of retreat. This decisive act demonstrated his absolute commitment to his mission. For Alexander, failure was not an option. His relentless pursuit of victory, combined with his boldness and strategic brilliance, ensured that he would be remembered as one of history's greatest military leaders. Despite his many triumphs, Alexander's life was tragically cut short. In 323 BC, at the age of just 32, he fell ill and died in Babylon. His empire, which he had worked so hard to build, fragmented soon after his death, divided among his generals. Yet his legacy endured. Alexander's conquests spread Greek culture throughout the known world, laying the foundation for the Hellenistic period, an era that saw unprecedented cultural exchange and intellectual advancement. Alexander the Great remains a symbol of ambition, courage, and leadership. His journey from a young king of Macedonia to the ruler of the largest empire the world had ever seen is a testament to his unparalleled vision and determination. He was a man who, despite the odds, dared to dream of a united world, and for a brief moment in history, he achieved it. In conclusion, Alexander's journey was one of unparalleled conquest, driven by ambition, genius, and a desire to leave a lasting legacy. Though his empire did not last, his impact on history is undeniable. Alexander the Great will forever be remembered as a conqueror who reshaped the world in his image. If you're fascinated by more legendary figures and their extraordinary stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more captivating historical content. In our next video, we'll explore another iconic historical figure or delve into the beauty and significance of the Taj Mahal, as well as fascinating aspects of Indian culture. And here's a fun way to get involved. If you're from the USA, type A in the comments, Europe type B, Asia type C, and other countries type D. Or feel free to type your country's name. This helps me understand where my viewers are from and lets me create videos based on your specific interests. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on upcoming content tailored just for you. In the annals of history, Baldwin IV, the leper king of Jerusalem, stands as a shining example of determination and courage. Born in 1161, Baldwin was not like other boys his age. From a young age, his life was shaped by the shadows of a debilitating illness, leprosy. This devastating disease would ultimately claim his body, but it never claimed his spirit. At just 13 years old, Baldwin ascended to the throne of Jerusalem in 1174, during a period when the Christian kingdom was surrounded by powerful enemies, particularly the forces of Saladin, the renowned Muslim general. It was a kingdom already caught in the grip of religious and military conflicts. But Baldwin was no ordinary king. Though his body was ravaged by illness, his mind was as sharp as any general, and his heart was filled with an unshakable desire to protect his people. Baldwin's early years were marked by personal tragedy, as leprosy began to manifest more visibly in his body. Leprosy, in medieval times, was often seen as a curse, a disease that isolated its victims from society. But Baldwin would not allow his illness to define him. Instead, he turned to mastering the art of warfare. Under the guidance of knights and seasoned military leaders, Baldwin honed his skills and strategy, learning not only how to fight, but also how to lead men into battle with precision and brilliance. As a ruler, Baldwin faced two seemingly insurmountable challenges: the relentless progression of his illness and the constant threat posed by Muslim forces. The most formidable of these foes was Saladin, who sought to reclaim Jerusalem for Islam. Baldwin knew that, to protect his kingdom, he would need to lead his army into battle himself. No small feat for a king suffering from leprosy. The disease had taken a visible toll on his body, causing his fingers and toes to decay and his face to show signs of the illness. Yet, despite the physical limitations, Baldwin rode into battle, earning the respect of his soldiers and enemies alike. One of Baldwin's most famous military successes came at the Battle of Montcassard in 1177. This was no ordinary battle. It was a fight that would define Baldwin's reign and his legacy. Saladin, confident in his overwhelming numbers, led a large force to attack the kingdom of Jerusalem. Outnumbered and outmatched, Baldwin and his troops faced almost certain defeat. But Baldwin's tactical genius and sheer force will turn the tide of the battle. On that fateful day, Baldwin rode into battle with his arm wrapped in bandages, concealing the marks of his disease. Yet his illness did not dampen his spirit. As he led his forces into the fray, he called upon his soldiers to fight with every ounce of strength they had left. The odds were overwhelmingly against them, but Baldwin knew that victory was possible if his men fought with bravery and unity. With his small army, Baldwin launched a bold and unexpected attack against Saladin's forces. The ferocity of his assault stunned the Muslim army. Despite being heavily outnumbered, Baldwin's troops managed to break through Saladin's lines, forcing the Muslim leader to retreat in disarray. The victory at Montcassard was nothing short of miraculous, a triumph that cemented Baldwin's reputation as a brilliant and courageous king. The Battle of Montcassard was a defining moment in Baldwin's reign, but it was also a temporary reprieve in the larger struggle to defend Jerusalem. As the years passed, Baldwin's leprosy worsened. His physical condition deteriorated to the point where he could no longer ride into battle himself. Yet even as his body failed him, Baldwin's mind remained sharp, and his strategic insights continued to guide his generals and advisors. Baldwin's reign was not only marked by his military exploits, but also by his efforts to secure a stable future for Jerusalem. As his illness progressed, Baldwin realized that he needed to plan for the eventual transition of power. He appointed his sister, Sibylla, and her husband, Guy of Lusignan, to serve as his successors. However, internal divisions within the Christian kingdom would complicate this transition, as rival factions vied for power. Despite his worsening condition, Baldwin never wavered in his commitment to protecting Jerusalem. He continued to oversee the defense of the kingdom, even as Saladin regrouped and prepared for future attacks. Baldwin's leadership during this time was marked by a deep sense of duty and responsibility to his people. He knew that his time was limited, but he was determined to leave behind a kingdom that could withstand the challenges it faced. As Baldwin's reign drew to a close, he became increasingly isolated due to the severity of his illness. By 1183, he was almost completely incapacitated, unable to walk or hold a sword. His regency was passed to others, but Baldwin's presence continued to loom large over the kingdom. His people revered him not only for his military successes, but also for his unyielding spirit in the face of overwhelming adversity. Baldwin IV passed away in 1185 at the age of 24, his body finally succumbing to the ravages of leprosy. His death marked the end of an era for the Kingdom of Jerusalem. But his legacy lived on, both in the hearts of his people and in the annals of history. He was remembered not just as a king, but as a warrior who defied the limitations of his illness and inspired loyalty in those who fought by his side. Even his enemies, including Saladin, held Baldwin in high regard. Saladin, who would go on to capture Jerusalem just a few years after Baldwin's death, is said to have respected the leper king for his courage and tenacity. The two men, though adversaries on the battlefield, shared a mutual admiration for each other's leadership and military prowess. Baldwin IV's story is one of perseverance, courage, and the indomitable human spirit. Despite facing unimaginable challenges, he led his kingdom through one of its most tumultuous periods. His reign was short, but it left a lasting impact on the history of Jerusalem and the Crusader states. Baldwin IV's life reminds us that true strength is not measured by physical abilities, but by the resolve to fight for what is right, no matter the odds. If you were inspired by the incredible story of Baldwin IV, don't forget to check out our other videos on legendary historical figures and epic battles. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What other historical stories would you like us to explore? Did you know that over 3,000 euros are tossed into the Trevi Fountain every day? This iconic landmark in Rome has captivated millions of visitors for centuries, not just for its stunning beauty, but for the legends and stories surrounding it. The Fontana di Trevi stands as one of the greatest monuments of Baroque architecture, but there's so much more beneath its surface. Today, we're going to dive deep into the mysteries of the Trevi Fountain, uncovering its fascinating history, the legends attached to it, and the modern challenges it faces as a global tourist destination. Join me as we explore this Roman masterpiece. The Trevi Fountain is not just a beautiful structure. It's one of the most important symbols of Rome, embodying the city's artistic grandeur, rich history, and the allure of ancient traditions. It's no surprise that this fountain has become one of the most visited attractions in the world. Yet, behind the mesmerizing beauty of the flowing water and intricate statues, there lies a deeper history. The fountain, as we know it today, was designed by architect Nicola Salvi in the 18th century, but its origins stretch back much further. In fact, its roots date back to ancient Roman times. The fountain is located at the junction of three roads, which is where it gets its name Trevi from, meaning three streets in Italian. However, it also marks the endpoint of an ancient Roman aqueduct, the Aqua Virgo, which was built in 19 BC by Marcus Agrippa to supply fresh water to the city of Rome. The aqueduct, one of Rome's longest-lasting engineering feats, still functions today and feeds the water into the fountain. Let's talk about the design and symbolism of the fountain itself. Dominating the Trevi Fountain is the statue of Oceanus, the god of the sea, standing in the center of a triumphal arch. He is surrounded by allegorical figures representing abundance and health. Oceanus rides a shell chariot pulled by two sea horses, each guided by a triton. The two horses symbolize contrasting moods of the sea. One is calm, while the other is wild and untamable, representing the unpredictable nature of the ocean. The entire ensemble creates a powerful depiction of man's connection with water, a resource that was crucial to Rome's rise as a city. Salvi's design was completed by another artist, Giuseppe Panini, after Salvi's death, but the original vision remains intact. Every element in the fountain carries symbolic meaning, linking it not only to Rome's maritime power, but also to the importance of water in ancient Roman culture. But the Fontana di Trevi is not just admired for its beauty. There are many legends and traditions that have become part of its mystique. Perhaps the most famous is the tradition of coin tossing. Tourists from all over the world come to toss coins into the fountain, with the hope of ensuring a return trip to Rome. The legend goes that if you throw a coin over your left shoulder into the fountain, you'll one day return to the Eternal City. This custom has become so popular that on any given day, thousands of people throw coins into the fountain. But where does all that money go? Each night, city workers scoop out the coins, and the collected money, totaling over 1.5 million euros a year, is donated to Caritas, a Catholic charity that supports Rome's homeless and underprivileged communities. It's amazing to think that a simple act of tossing a coin can lead to such a positive impact on the lives of those in need. Of course, with the popularity of the fountain comes challenges. Millions of visitors each year pose significant risks to the fountain's long-term preservation. The constant flow of tourists means the structure is under constant stress, from people leaning on the marble to the pollution caused by the sheer volume of traffic. Additionally, coins tossed into the fountain can cause damage to the water systems and lead to erosion over time. But despite these challenges, efforts have been made to protect and restore this treasure. In 2015, the Fendi fashion house sponsored a massive restoration of the fountain, donating over 2 million euros to clean and repair the marble, restore the statues, and upgrade the lighting. This restoration was part of a larger initiative to preserve Rome's cultural heritage, ensuring that landmarks like the Trevi Fountain continue to inspire future generations. The fountain's cultural significance doesn't end with its architecture or legends. Over the centuries, the Trevi Fountain has become a symbol of Rome in art and cinema. Perhaps most famously, it was immortalized in Federico Fellini's classic film La Dolce Vita, where actress Anita Ekberg wades into the fountain, inviting Marcello Mastroianni to join her. This scene has become iconic in cinema history, cementing the fountain's place not only as a tourist destination, but as a symbol of romance and the magical allure of Rome. The fountain has appeared in countless other films, TV shows, and even music videos, further solidifying its status as a global cultural icon. One lesser-known fact about the fountain is its connection to Roman superstitions. Aside from the coin-tossing tradition, another legend says that if lovers drink from the small fountain on the left-hand side of the monument, known as the Lover's Fountain, they will stay faithful to each other forever. Many couples who visit Rome make sure to follow this tradition, adding another layer of romance to their trip. Despite the challenges of tourism and pollution, the Trevi Fountain remains a symbol of Rome's timeless beauty. It's a place where history, art, and legend converge, offering visitors a glimpse into Rome's past and a moment of connection with the city's vibrant cultural heritage. Every coin tossed into the fountain tells a story, whether it's a wish to return or a hope for love. From its ancient Roman origins to its place in modern-day tourism, the Trevi Fountain continues to enchant visitors from all over the world. If you've ever visited the Trevi Fountain or tossed a coin in its waters, let me know in the comments below. share your stories, and tell me what this incredible monument meant to you. And if you enjoyed diving into the history and mysteries of the Trevi Fountain, don't forget to subscribe for more videos exploring Rome's hidden gems and world-famous landmarks. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Join me as I dive into the mysteries of ancient Egypt and uncover the secrets hidden in the pyramid texts versus the coffin texts. Did you know the pyramid texts are over 4,000 years old and are considered the oldest religious texts in the world? These ancient writings offer a profound glimpse into the spiritual world of ancient Egypt. And today, we'll explore how they differ and connect with one another. Our journey begins with the pyramid texts, which were first used during the Old Kingdom period around 2400 BC. These texts were inscribed on the walls of pyramid chambers, primarily intended for the pharaohs. The purpose was to guide and protect the deceased pharaohs on their journey to the afterlife. The language used in the pyramid texts is grand and majestic, reflecting the divine status of the pharaohs. These texts are filled with spells, incantations, and hymns designed to ensure the pharaoh's successful ascent to the divine realm and eternal life. This exclusivity was not just about religious practice, but also about reinforcing the pharaoh's divine authority and central role in maintaining cosmic order. In contrast, the coffin texts emerged during the Middle Kingdom period, around 1900 BC, when there was a significant shift in religious practice and social structure. Unlike the pyramid texts, which were reserved for the elite, the coffin texts were written on the coffins of ordinary people. This change reflected a democratization of the afterlife beliefs, making spiritual practices accessible to a broader segment of society. The coffin texts include a variety of spells and rituals aimed at helping individuals achieve a favorable afterlife, focusing on personal transformation and protection. The language here is more straightforward and practical compared to the cryptic and enigmatic nature of the pyramid texts. As we delve deeper, we see that the pyramid texts emphasize the divine nature of the pharaoh and their role as an intermediary between the gods and the people. The texts are filled with references to gods and celestial bodies, and their primary concern is the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. The elaborate rituals described were meant to ensure the pharaoh's immortality and divine status. The pyramid texts reveal a complex cosmology where the pharaoh is central to maintaining the balance between the gods and the earthly realm. On the other hand, the coffin texts reflect a broader range of concerns and aspirations, particularly focusing on the ordinary individual's journey to the afterlife. These texts are more concerned with personal piety and moral conduct. They include spells for protection, blessings for the deceased, and instructions for navigating the challenges of the afterlife. This shift highlights a growing emphasis on individual spiritual development and the belief that ordinary people could also achieve a favorable afterlife through proper rituals and moral behavior. One of the most surprising insights from studying these texts is how they challenge our common assumptions about ancient Egyptian spirituality. The pyramid texts reveal a much more complex and nuanced view of the afterlife than is often assumed. They highlight the pharaoh's role not just as a ruler, but as a divine being with a unique connection to the gods. Similarly, the coffin texts show that ancient Egyptian spirituality was more inclusive and diverse than traditionally thought. Ordinary people were not merely passive recipients of religious teachings, but active participants in their spiritual journeys. By examining these texts, we gain a deeper understanding of the evolving nature of ancient Egyptian religion and how it reflected broader changes in society. The pyramid texts and coffin texts offer valuable insights into the spiritual lives of ancient Egyptians, revealing a rich and multifaceted worldview. In summary, the pyramid texts and coffin texts provide a fascinating glimpse into the religious practices of ancient Egypt. The pyramid texts underscore the divine status of the pharaoh and their role in the afterlife, while the coffin texts reflect a more personal and accessible approach to spiritual practice. Together, they reveal a complex and evolving landscape of ancient Egyptian spirituality that challenges and enriches our understanding of their culture. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the secrets of ancient Egypt. If you have any thoughts or insights, please leave them in the comments below. And be sure to check out my other videos on ancient Egyptian history for more intriguing content. Have you ever wondered how the ancient Egyptians managed to build the Great Pyramids, those towering monuments that have stood for millennia, defying the passage of time? The construction of the pyramids, particularly the Great Pyramid of Giza, is one of history's greatest mysteries, combining feats of engineering, organizational prowess, and sheer manpower. Let's dive into the fascinating process that made these structures possible. Imagine the hot Egyptian sun beating down on thousands of workers who toiled day after day, year after year, to move and place the massive stone blocks that make up these pyramids. Each block weighed between 2.5 and 15 tons, and yet they were somehow transported from quarries, some located miles away, to the construction site. The logistics alone were staggering, requiring a well-coordinated effort of labor, resources, and time. The ancient Egyptians likely used a combination of ramps, levers, and manpower to lift these heavy stones into place. The most widely accepted theory suggests that a straight or circular ramp was built around the pyramid's core, and as the pyramid grew taller, so did the ramp. Workers would drag the stones up these ramps, possibly aided by lubricated surfaces or rolling logs to reduce friction. But even with these methods, the precision with which these stones were placed is astonishing. The Great Pyramid, for example, is aligned with incredible accuracy to the cardinal points of the compass, a testament to the advanced knowledge of geometry and astronomy possessed by the ancient Egyptians. Beyond the physical construction, the organization of labor was a monumental task. Contrary to popular belief, the workers were not slaves but skilled laborers who were well-fed and housed in nearby workers' villages. They worked in shifts, with each crew responsible for a specific task, from quarrying the stones to transporting them and setting them in place. The workforce was divided into teams, each led by a foreman, ensuring that the construction process was as efficient as possible. One of the most intriguing aspects of pyramid construction is the mystery surrounding the tools and techniques used. Despite extensive archaeological research, we still don't have a complete understanding of how the ancient Egyptians achieved such precision with the tools available at the time. Copper chisels, wooden mallets, and stone tools were the primary instruments. Yet the precision of the cuts and the fit of the stones remain a marvel to modern engineers. The construction of the pyramids wasn't just about building a monument. It was also a display of the pharaoh's power and a testament to the advanced capabilities of the Egyptian civilization. The Great Pyramid of Giza, for example, was built for Pharaoh Khufu and served as his tomb, designed to ensure his safe passage to the afterlife. The sheer scale of the pyramid, with its original height of 146.6 meters, 481 feet, was meant to demonstrate the divine status of the pharaoh and his connection to the gods. Even today, the pyramids continue to inspire awe and curiosity. How did a civilization without modern machinery achieve such feats? What secrets do the pyramids still hold within their ancient walls? As we uncover more about these magnificent structures, we are reminded of the ingenuity and determination of the people who built them, leaving behind a legacy that has stood the test of time. So, the next time you look at the Great Pyramid, remember that you are gazing at one of humanity's greatest achievements, a symbol of a civilization that mastered the art of building on a scale that still amazes us today. If you enjoyed this video and you're watching from Europe, type A. If you're listening from the USA, type B. If you're tuning in from Asia, type C. And if you're watching from another country, type D. We'd love to know where you're from. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss another video. Stay tuned for more fascinating content. Beneath the sands of Egypt lies a story that might change everything we thought we knew about ancient civilizations. A story that suggests a hidden connection between societies one from one another. For centuries, historians and archaeologists have marveled at the incredible accomplishments of ancient cultures like the Egyptians, Mesopotamians, Indus Valley inhabitants, and the enigmatic Minoans. But what if these civilizations were not as disconnected as we've always assumed? Imagine a secret network, a brotherhood of thinkers, builders, and leaders who shared forbidden knowledge across continents, guiding the rise of these great societies. The evidence, however, has long been elusive, buried beneath layers of sand, stone, and time. How do we trace connections between cultures separated by vast distances, with different languages, religions, and customs? The clues are scattered and often hidden, but recent discoveries have begun to reveal the startling truth. Deep in the Egyptian desert, archaeologists have unearthed an artifact unlike any other, a relic bearing symbols not just from Egypt, but also from Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, and even distant Minoan Crete. These symbols tell a tale of secret meetings held in the shadows, where the leaders of these civilizations exchanged knowledge, philosophies, and technologies. It's as if they were united by a common purpose, bound by an oath to preserve and protect the most sacred knowledge of the ancient world. Could the pyramids of Egypt, the ziggurats of Mesopotamia, and the forgotten cities of the Indus Valley be part of a grand, interconnected blueprint? The idea may seem far-fetched, but the evidence is compelling. Scholars have long noted the similarities in architectural styles, mathematical systems, and even spiritual beliefs among these ancient cultures. Some experts believe that these similarities are not mere coincidence, but rather the result of a coordinated effort by an elite